I spent years living all the way in the box, afraid to step out, afraid to truly grab hold of my dream. And now I am breaking through, and I invite you to join me.
Your breakthrough starts now. Coming up on today's show, get ready to be inspired and transformed with our featured guests. Find out what's trending and get advice on life's daily challenges with Erica's top tips of the day. All of this and so much more coming up, so stay tuned. This is your one-stop shop for inspiration. The Erica Latrice Show. And now, here's your host, Erica.
And welcome to the Erica Latrice Show. Listen, if you have been tuning in, then you know that we are knee deep in the AmplifyHER Virtual Summit Powerful Women series. So I'm so honored that I have the opportunity to feature and highlight some of the amazing women that will be taking part in this virtual summit. If you haven't gotten your tickets, do not tiptoe, do not walk, sprint right now, run to AmplifyHerMovement.com. The tickets are from free to VIP, and I have a very special guest today in the Be Inspired Cafe. Listen, you all, I always tell you, grab your notepad, grab your pen. The nuggets that you're going to get will be game changing. And I don't say that lightly. I mean it. So our special guest in the Be Inspired Cafe today I say this, I'm like, oh, they need no introduction. But Ruth needs no introduction, in my opinion, because she is a powerhouse. She has such a heart to help you get your message out. We're talking about message to movement. Well, Ruth is going to help you get that message out. She helps you write. She is a creative like none other. She is always plugged into powerful opportunities for her clients. I personally have seen her help women and amplify her get their first books out, launch bestsellers, like really just take off and soar. So I want you to welcome with me powerhouse guest speaker, Ruth L. Snyder, into the Be Inspired Cafe today. How are you doing, Ruth?
Thank you so much, Erica. I'm doing great, and thank you for having me.
Yes, I am excited to have you. I feel like all the women in Amplify Her are like aging backwards right now because you look so like refreshed, so young. I said that to Sonia if she's watching now too. I'm like, y'all are aging backwards. So Ruth, can you just talk to us a little bit about what you do? And for those that may not have connected with you up until now, like what are you most passionate about in this season?
So I love to write, and I love to help other people, like you said, share their stories. And I do that in a variety of ways. The most recent venture that I have started is I joined forces with a friend of mine, and we are publishing compilations of different people's stories. We started with a book called Strong Moms, and moms who have been through extraordinary circumstances shared their stories with us. And then we also published a book called Men Who Matter in time for Father's Day. And we had a variety of authors. Some wrote for the first time, including some children. And then we had also contributions from published authors who have their own platform, but just were really wanting to support the project. And we are planning to publish 6 more books this coming year. So that's one project I'm involved with. I also coach people one-on-one because I realize that sometimes a group project or a group coaching does not get the results that it gets. And I just finished helping a couple people publish their books. I helped a lady from Florida, Rhonda, publish her book. She had been working on it for 3 years and had paid thousands of dollars and was not getting any traction. And we were able to get her book published a few months ago. And then just last week, I helped a young university student from Nigeria who is one of 8 children born into poverty. And he connected with me on Twitter and then asked me questions and wrote his book about crossing limits and 10 things that he has done to overcome the limits that he had in his life. And so we were able to launch his book on Sunday. True African style 2.5-hour launch.
Wow. Okay. So my question to you, Ruth, is like the blessing for me is that I've been able to see you soar. I've been able to see all of the amazingness. Like I feel like I've had the behind the scenes, the inside scoop. But what I would love to talk about is when I've seen you like continue to just reach new heights and reach new heights and come with all these amazing connections and see things flow. What would you say to that person that maybe they're being presented with like, as we've talked about the whole shiny object, like a gazillion things. How do you know when, like, how have you been able to see and recognize when God's hand is on something and that idea starts to flourish? Like, what has that been like for you?
Mm.
What has it been like for you? And what would you say to someone else that may be struggling in that area?
So I am a creative and I understand all too well those shiny objects and how tempting they are. And I have been distracted many, many times in my life. And I would say that the thing that keeps me grounded is my quiet time with the Lord, spending time in His Word, and asking Him, God, is this something that you want me to be involved with? I have to confess that I don't always do that. And that's usually when I get tripped up because there are so many fun things to be involved with. But we're only going to get traction and move forward when we are able to focus. And so ask God what He wants you to focus on right now. Ask Him what His priority is for you. And then put all of your time and energy into following that. And turn off those notifications, turn off everything that is going to distract you, and just put your energy into that one thing so that you can make progress.
Who the distractions, the notifications, y'all, that was noteworthy. I feel like that was almost like prophetic right there, Ruth, because someone's probably distracted right now trying to like tune into this interview, and then they got like getting pulled in different directions. And I encourage you all, the reason I say like get your notepad out, it's because I know that sometimes we can see things like these interviews pop up or all these resources and take it lightly. But there have been moments in my life where it was just like one thing from a free interview or workshop or something. And it was like that aha switch went off and things changed. So I would love to hear from you. What would you say? What's been one of those challenges that you hear all the time when it comes to people finally like writing the book, finally getting the story out? What's one of like the biggest challenges, and what advice or tips do you give around that?
So I would say the biggest challenge that I faced when I started as a writer was that I was a mom to 5 children, many of them with special needs. And I was also working on the school board. And that's when God called me to be a writer. And I was like, okay, you're calling me to be a writer, but I don't have time. How am I going to get it done? And so one of the things that one of my mentors shared with me was that she woke up earlier in the morning. And I am a morning person, so that worked for me when my kids were young. They used to sleep longer than they sleep really long now, but they were usually up by 6:37 in the morning. So if I wanted to get my writing done, that meant I had to get up at 5 or 5:30 in the morning while it was still quiet. Now I have learned to focus and write while they're around me. But at that point, when I was first starting, I had to get up early. I had to do my writing when nobody was around to interfere or distract me. And that is how I got my writing done. That might not work for you. Maybe you're more of a night owl and you need to stay up late and write after everybody's in bed. Or maybe you're working full time, but you still have coffee breaks or lunch hours that you can use for your writing. Or maybe you like to relax by the TV. So cut out half an hour of TV, do your writing then. If you want to do something, you'll get it done.
This is so good because it's the thing that I think is so good about it is knowing who we are. It's so easy in this time where you're comparing yourself to how so and so did it, or they're like, swipe this template or follow this format. And then kind of like the example that you shared, you find yourself, you spent thousands of dollars. And I go like anti all of this because you can't swipe. I feel like you can't swipe the anointing. That's the best way I can say it. Like God has graced us. He's anointed us for certain things. And when you get this idea, maybe you're not seeing it in the marketplace because God has called you to bring it out. Like that's your mantle to carry it out. So you haven't seen it. And the answer isn't to go copy someone. It's to hone in on what you're supposed to do. So I love that you break that down, like what works for you, not what works for, the great nation of everyone else and copy them. So I would love to hear from you, Ruth. And this is kind of putting you on the spot, so if you need a second to think about it, but what would you say, like, what's been one of those favorite moments for you that you've had? Can you think of a time where maybe you had like a aha, like, I know I'm doing what I'm meant to do. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing through all the trials. I want to like touch on that. I'm making this question long, but it's because how I told you, I've been able to see behind the scenes through all the trials, challenges, obstacles, you still show up and help other people. So what's been that moment that you knew you were doing what you're supposed to be doing?
Oh boy. I think there's probably been many moments as I've progressed, but just the other day I was sitting marveling at how God is opening so many doors for me lately. It feels like a dam has burst and I just have all these opportunities. I joined an organization called Girl Power Alliance, and my course is the featured course this month. I also was invited to be a speaker for Shelley Hitz's Kingdom Writers Conference that's happening on July 20th. And then Erica approached me to come and speak here. And then I have my own coaching. I just, like I said, launched 2 books and am planning to work on 6 more this coming year. So I just feel like I'm really blessed. And I used to struggle with being jealous of people, seeing other people's success and saying, well, what about me, Lord? When are you going to bless me? And I went through some really difficult times, and I still sometimes fall on my knees and say, Lord, you know that I have some bills coming and I don't have the money in my bank account right now. And he's always been faithful to provide for me. And so I think if we can just hang on to him in those hard times and continue to be faithful, that's probably, I worked with a coach, Adam Hoagie, a couple of years ago, and he said he was kind of scolding me one day about shiny object syndrome. And he said, Ruth, the most important thing is to pick one thing and to be consistent. And if you can do that, you will see results. And so now I'm starting to see those results. It's not that I have an overnight success. It's planting those seeds, being faithful, watering those seeds, reaching out, making yourself available, helping others. And as you do that, then God brings more opportunities your way.
Yes. Ruth, you have such a gift, because I'm like, this is one of my favorite interviews so far. If you are another speaker and you're listening, you all are my favorite. But it's because I'm personally getting so many good moments, like just from listening to you speak and knowing your journey. And what that reminds me of when you're talking about your coach, Adam, is things being in season. And sometimes when we don't know when a season is up, or when we try to do things out of season, it can be a great idea. It can even be a God idea, but we're doing it outside of God's timing. So there's no flow. And I want to kind of talk about that too, because I remember having similar conversations where I'm like, I tell people this, I'm like, how many coaches are you working with? I feel good about you leaving me. I feel good about certain people, because I know if you're listening to 5 voices, because I've experienced that, where I have 5 different people trying to tell me how to market one product, and you're just like, I don't know what to do. What do I do?
I'm so confused.
They told me to do events. They told me to do a funnel. They said do a webinar, and everyone's just telling you from their perspective. So I can attest to the fact too that I honor what you teach. You do it. Like, I've witnessed you do it. So I think that's like just incredible. I want to talk about that too. So you talked about like getting focused and knowing what your season was has helped to propel you. And I'm seeing like all the opportunities roll out. So what advice would you give to someone else that maybe they feel like, well, if I single down to one coach, or if I only focus on this one thing, I'm going to miss out? That feeling of missing out, what would you say to that, especially when it comes to getting this message out in the book form? How do you advise someone in that?
Well, I think of a story that my mom used to tell me when I was a little girl, and we lived in Africa, and we had the opportunity to go to game reserves and see the wild animals in their natural habitats. And so we saw giraffes quite often. And I just wondered at their graceful run as they were just loping beside us sometimes. But she used to tell me a story about a giraffe who couldn't make up his mind. And of course, it's a fable, it's not true, but I think of it often because she talked about this giraffe and he came to this path and there were two ways he could go. And he couldn't make up his mind. So he'd take one step down one path and then one step down the other path and then one step down the first path and then the second path and then the first path and the second path. And eventually he split in two because he couldn't go any further. And we do that to ourselves way too often. You won't miss out. Like Erica said, there are different seasons. So maybe this is a season of just putting your head down, doing the hard work, ignoring all the flashy symbols around you, and being faithful. God calls us to faithfulness. He doesn't call us to success. If we can leave that success in His hands, in time, we will see fruit. Success may not look the same for Erica as it does for me, but that's God's responsibility. It's not my responsibility. My responsibility is to be faithful, to pick that path, to follow it, and to follow through. And with writing a book, it's really, really important to focus. There are, the stats are that 98% of the population wants to write a book. But of that 98%, only 8% actually write the book. And then of the 8% who write a book and finish writing it, only about 3% publish that book. So it's because there's lots of distractions. There's lots of choices that you need to make along the way. And that's why some people reach out to me as a coach, because it can be confusing, especially if you've never done it before. But having a path, following it, being faithful is so important. And so I would just encourage you to do that, to find that path and follow it.
That was a mic drop moment. That was a t-shirt and a journal. God is more concerned about your faithfulness. I hope you guys caught that. So we're going to take a short break as we get ready to wrap. If you're watching right now and something has resonated with you, please comment. And Ruth is going to share how you can get connected with her. If you are someone, this is just a little Q&A for the audience. If you're in that 98%, which I'm sure you are, if you're in that 98% of people that have thought about writing a book, just comment me. And I will throw in something special for those of you that comment me that kind of leads you to what Ruth has. So I'm excited. We're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we'll wrap up our interview with some more actionable steps for you to help you turn that message into a movement by way of writing your next book. So we'll see you in just a second.
If you're watching this, so are your potential clients. I'm excited to announce an all-new season of the Erica Latrice Show. It's coming up right now, and we're looking for featured guests as well as sponsors. If you want to be a success supporter of this show, connect with our team right now by emailing info@ericalatrice.com to get more information or just support the mission of Be Inspired, to empower and inspire people all around the world with a message of hope and encouragement. Our mission is to bring you uplifting news and talk to encourage and share a platform for those who have a powerful message and looking for a place to share it. If you want to partner with the Erica Latrice Show, you can do so by emailing info@ericalatrice.com or visit ericalatrice.com/sponsor so that you can be a success supporter of this inspirational movement.
All right. So there are so many things, Ruth. I need like a 7-week workshop to pull out all of the things that you have been able to accomplish and what you help others with. But I want to kind of talk about just strategy, just a couple of things. So you've been able, and I've witnessed it, you've been able to lay out plans where people can get their book done. And as soon as 30 days, you share about the student that connected with you on Twitter of all things and went from there to actually having his book out and ready. So what would you say is one of the biggest steps, if they do nothing else, before someone contacts you, before they make that leap and say yes? What's a really important step that you think our audience can take right now that's going to increase the likelihood that they get their book written? What's something they can do today?
Well, thanks to you, I still talk about why you need to aim before you write your book. So there's 3 things that you need clarity about. You need clarity about your audience, who you are writing for. And I still hear people say, well, I want everybody to benefit from my book because it's so good. And it's true that more people may benefit from your book, but think about one specific person that you're writing to, and that will give you a lot of clarity as you write your book. Then I is for introspection about yourself. What expertise, what experience are you bringing to the book? And this is something that whether you are self-published or whether you are going with one of the 5 publishing companies in the world, they will ask you, why should we take you on as an author? What is special about you or how you're approaching the subject? And why are people going to listen to you? Because when it comes right down to it, for the publishers, it's all about money. As Christians, of course, money is nice and we need money to live, but our main goal is to glorify God. But we still need to be clear about why we're writing our book and what we are bringing to our book. And then M is for market. And like Erica was talking about the seasons, you can have an excellent book. You can have the best, well-written book in your hand. But if people are not interested in that topic, if this is not the season for that book, it's not going to sell. So M is for doing market research. Do that. And I can walk you through some of those steps if you decide to come work with me.
So concise. Ruth, I love it. I'm going to add an extra question to you because I love that you've actually gone through Amplify Her, and even the journey that I've had as I've been like honing in on some of the things and figuring out what to keep, what to toss. But you brought up like that whole idea about that awareness and that clarity. So what would you say to someone that's kind of on the fence about getting into a community, like getting into Amplify Her specifically to help get clarity around their offer? Can you speak a little bit about your experience and how it helped you, if in any way, how did Amplify Her, being a part of it, help you?
Yes, Amplify Her definitely helped me because when I connected with Erica, I was still quite confused about my audience, what God was asking me to do. I was going through a very difficult personal time at that moment, and Erica just said, hey, it's going to be okay. She calmed me down. And I told her when we met today that I still go through a template that she provides in her training because I'm able to see at a glance what my purpose is, who I'm reaching, how I'm reaching them, and what I should put into my content. So that is worth thousands of dollars. If you can get that clarity, that alone is worth joining Amplify Her for.
I love it. And so thank you, Ruth, because you're one of those people. And I say, I don't take it lightly when you all see me up here with someone and I used the word earlier, endorsing them. It's because I know the heart behind that person. I know that for them, it's about so much more than just getting you to the sales page. It's about so much more. And I've been able to see Ruth actually even help women in Amplify Her to get their message out. So not only is it always exciting to hear how Amplify Her has affected you, Ruth, I want to hear now, for those that need to get connected with what you have going on, can you talk to us about like what's that next step for someone that's watching? They want to get plugged in, they want to support what you're doing. What's the best next step for them?
So my website is ruthlsnyder.com, ruthlsnyder.com. And I do offer a 30-minute free consultation because I think it's really important for me to understand where you're at, what you're offering, and where you want to go. And then we talk about whether it would be beneficial for people to work with me. I don't work with everyone who comes to me because I specialize in helping people write nonfiction books. I don't help people with children's books. I don't help people with fiction books. And again, that has come through clarity and experimentation. I just find that I enjoy helping people with their nonfiction books. So we have that clarity call. We get to know each other, and then we decide whether we're going to work together or whether there would be other options that would work better for you. And I do have other connections that I do refer people to.
Yes, so much more. I'm like, we're wrapping now, but even that, knowing who you like, if you know who you're called to and you know who you're not on, and it sometimes it takes actually stepping out and just doing it. That's what it takes. And then you realize, never again do I want this experience. Oh, I can relate on so many levels to that. So yes, and I learned through that same process that I don't get that excited about helping people to publish. I would rather you work with Ruth. But when the book is published and you want to come back and teach and have a community to share with, go to Ruth and then come back so we can help you step on stage and share and interview who's in speaking. So Ruth, if there was just one thing that anyone that comes in contact with you, your message, and all that you stand for, if they just walked away with one thing from today's interview, what do you hope they get from you?
Oh, you know how to put somebody on the spot. One thing. I think my one thing would be keep seeking God above everything else, because he created us. He knows who we are. And if you are seeking God, he will give you the clarity you need. He will help you develop the gifts he has given you, and he will open the doors that he has for you to walk through.
Amen. Like the end, that's the best. And when you talked about that, God does not like, God wants your faith. I'm trying to make sure I don't mess the quote up. Can you say God wants your faithfulness? He doesn't need your success, right? God wants your faithfulness. He doesn't need your success.
We need to focus on being faithful and leave success in God's hands. Yes. I can't remember how I said it either.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go back and watch it, and then I'm going to turn it into a quote, and then I need you to turn it into a t-shirt, because it just took me to Joshua 1, where he talks about true success, being strong, being courageous. But when we are faithful to meditate on his word day and night, that's where we'll find the success. And that's what I got from that quote that Ruth will be rolling out a website soon. It's going to be a whole conference. You heard it here first. Yes, Ruth, thank you. I want to say thank you so much for taking time to always make time for Amplify Her. I love that you're always willing to come back and freely pour out into other women that are where you were, and now you're able to bring them to where you are. So I definitely appreciate you so much.
Well, thank you, Erica. You have poured into me, so I think it's only fair that I come back and pay it back.
Yes. Well, thank you. And speaking of paying it back, if you are watching right now, you have the opportunity to hear even more from Ruth as one of our featured speakers for the Amplify Her Virtual Summit. So if you have not gone, go to AmplifyHerMovement.com to get your tickets. The tickets are free, so no excuse to get going. But if you want the VIP experience where you can be more interactive, meet some of our speakers, ask questions, then upgrade to the VIP option. And as I'm always telling y'all, listen, go out and make a 2-day amazing. You're not getting equipped to sit down on these things. It's really to help you go be so amazing that people can't help but either get on board or get away from you because you're just too excited and you have like too much joy. And yeah, stay connected with me across social media at Erica Empowers. If this inspired you, the best way that you can support is to subscribe wherever you're watching this. Subscribe here, and I will see y'all in the next episode. So take care and see you on the other side of the next season episode of it. Not on the other side, but on the next episode. Take care, everybody.
For more inspiration, visit us online at ericalatrice.com.